So a lot of you have errors, and that's okay. I'm going to give you an opportunity to figure them out on your own, and then I will probably help you with it later if I am feeling generous. Just kidding. I'll help all your problems. Don't worry. JK, LOL.
Did we add yet the thing where it adds one when we press?
So we haven't added any upvote or downvote functionality yet, and that's the next thing we have to do. To upvote or downvote something, the first thing we need to do is we need to find the key of whatever restaurant we're looking for, and then we need to update the key to the vote and the votes key in that restaurant key right here. We need to find whatever restaurant key it is, and then store and either change this by 1 or up 1 or down 1, depending if you want to upvote it or downvote it. But that means we have to take this key right here and we have to store it inside the card somehow. So in this card in here, we need to store the name of the card, right? Or the ID of the card. And that's where things get a little tricky, huh? You ready? Here's how we're going to do it. Now, we have this key because we're getting this key right here when we iterate over it. Where should we store this so that any time when we upvote or downvote it, right here in this button, when we upvote or downvote, when we click this button, it is going to up or downvote by the key. Because remember, that is the only way we need to identify this, by its unique key. Because this key uniquely identifies each of these restaurants. So where should we store it? This is the trickiest part. Okay, perfect. So we're going to on-click this button, and we're going to run an upvote function. And this one is going to be on-click equals what? Downvote the button. And we don't need these hrefs anymore. Cool. But how are we going to store, or how are we going to pass the key in right there? That's the question, huh? Let's see if this works. Let's see if we can pass the key in like this. Maybe that'll work. Let's find out, shall we? Because we're already grabbing the key every time we iterate over the list, the array of keys. So maybe we could just pass it into the upvote function. Let's see if that works, shall we? So on-click the upvote button. We're creating an on-click handler that's going to run a function called upvote. And it's going to pass the key in, hopefully. And then we can do something with it. Right? Do you think it's going to work? Who thinks it's going to work? I'm curious. Well, we could make it a string. We could also do this. Let's find out if this works, shall we? Let's go into the Firebase voting, and let's create 2 more functions. One called upvote, that takes in the key we need to upvote for, and one called downvote, that takes in the key we need to downvote for. Now the first thing we need to do inside each of these functions is we need to go get a reference to the database, just like we did right here. Except we no longer need to get the restaurant's ref, we need to get the exact ref that we're looking for right here. So it's not going to be just /restaurants, it's going to be /restaurants / the name of the restaurant. And so so this should be like restaurants ref up here technically, but whatever, it's fine. So in both of these, we need to add the key onto the end of that, right? That's the idea here, is that we get the exact location of each of those restaurants so we can update its votes. But let's go ahead and console.log the keys here and see what we get. See if we're actually passing anything in. Okay? And let me paste both these functions into Slack so you have them both. Just in case things get a little dicey. Because they're going to. Here's the upvote and downvote functions. And let's check out to see if this works, shall we? You ready? Ready for the moment of truth? No, not at all? Okay, I'll give you a second. Now let's go ahead and refresh this page, and let's try and upvote Pizza Mercado. Oh, look at that. We are getting the key back. Cool. That means it's working, isn't it? Pretty awesome. Now let's go ahead and actually do the updating. So we have a restaurant ref right there, right? But we also need to say plus key for both of these plus slash votes, right? And that, well, actually, that's just the reference. So let's just leave it at just key right there. And then we can say something like, now how do we upvote? Let's get the number of votes first, right? We can get the number of votes and then update it, or we can set it, or we can push it. Now when you read and write to the database, when you read and write data, right here, you can, let's look at this, update specific fields in your data. In the web, right here, we can read and write data simply by updating it, or we can push it, right this, right? Updating the post data simultaneously in the post lists and the user's post list. So we could say equals post data, right there. We can update it entirely, or you can write data simply by doing this. Database.ref.users and just set it, which will overwrite everything. So there's a couple ways we can update this data. If you want to read the data and then update the data, you can do that too. So there's a couple different ways to do this, but I'm going to show you the way I think might be the easiest to actually add more keys. Cool? So the way I would actually go about doing this is I would take this reference and I would push in the user's ID. I think that would be the easiest way to do it, and change this 0 into an object. So I would do it like this. I would say var user equals firebase.auth.current user, and then I would say var user ID equals user.uid, and that'll give you the unique user ID, like this. And then I would say restaurant ref dot push an object, right? So I would push in the user ID, and then it would change this section right here. This votes would then become an object. It would no longer be a 0. It would become an object containing the user ID, and I would change this part of the home.ejs so that whenever, instead of saying .votes, I would add up all the votes, all of the keys, and then put them in as a vote. So I would do something like this. For each of these, I would create a new variable here really quickly, and I would add up each one. I would say restaurants key dot votes dot, and then I would get the object dot keys of all of that. So I get all the keys of all the people who voted, all the user IDs, and store them in an array. And then I would just say, and I would say var all users who voted for it, and then I would just say all users dot length, and that would tell me the number of people who upvoted it. All users dot length. And if all users dot length is 0, then we're good. And so then I would come in here, I would save this, and I would update this one right here, and that actually upvote or downvote, you could then get rid of, you can remove the user ID in the downvote section. So then you can only do upvote yourself once, because you can't push in the same user ID more than once. So I would say here var, same thing, var user equals user ID or equals firebase.auth.current user, and then it's saying restaurant ref.push, restaurant ref.remove. And that will upvote and downvote people every time you click it.
Is that
user.uid. And that UID you can find right here. If you go to authentication, that is your UID. It's a unique key that corresponds to every single user. And so that is the way I would handle this whole process. But that is all of the time we have for today. So I'm not going to go into it too much more. Let's check out just to make sure it works. Let's see if we can actually get this even working. Refresh. Cool, no errors. Upvote. Oh, I need to window.reload this also. Then window to reload.
3:15 start? Awesome.
So that's all for now. I think we can finish this up actually in one more video. Let's get it going.